Greetings, all you Jacks and Jennets, and welcome to your daily dose of donkey with Ginger. It's your boy, the Viking Donkey, coming to you with some Steelers talk. Training camp has begun. People are showing up. People are, actually practicing, getting ready for a football season over there in places. Is it a good time of year? Of course it's a good time of year. We're getting into the start, getting prepped for the training camps, getting going. It's going to be fun. But really nothing to talk about yet as nothing's begun. No preseason games, no real big practice news, nothing crazy going on as of yet. However, we got to talk about something. So let's go into something as the right now. How do we think the offensive position groups in the AFC stack up between the Steelers, the Bengals, the Ravens, and the Browns? I think it's a good spot to start on the offensive player group, see what we got going on there, see how we feel about it. And let's start at the premier position, that is the quarterback. How do the quarterbacks rank in the AFC North? I think Joe Burrow just leading the team to the Super Bowl gives the Bengals the number one ranking right there. No doubt about it in my mind. It goes Bengals 1 on the quarterback. Number 2 has to be a former MVP and a guy who can absolutely change the game. Don't forget, Baltimore was really good before he got hurt last year. And that, of course, is Lamar Jackson. We'll put the Ravens in at 2. And this is where it gets hard for me. Steelers, we don't know who our quarterback's going to be. Is it going to be Trubisky, Pickett, Rudolph? Maybe Oladoku throws the biggest wrench into the thing ever seen and manages to become the starter. And then you have Cleveland, which is, I think any of the Steelers' 3 main options is better than Jacoby Brissett, Joshua Dobbs, Josh Rosen trio. But how much weight do we put into Deshaun Watson? We know he's going to be suspended. I'm going to go ahead and say he's going to be suspended half the season, and half the season isn't going to make the Browns unit better than the Steelers unit. So we'll go ahead and give the Steelers the nod here at 3rd place, and we'll put the lowly Cleveland Browns into 4th place. All right. So when these quarterbacks go around and hand the ball off, who has the best stable of running backs out there? To me, it's a no-doubter. That is the Cleveland Browns. You're talking Chubb is a stud. Kareem Hunt is also a stud. And Dearness Johnson looked pretty good last year in his little stint of time. So you're talking 3 backs that are capable of carrying the ball and carrying it well. Very, very scary right there, what they can do in the backfield. I think number 2, purely because the next 2 teams I'm going to rank are based off of 1 running back. And as of right now, Joe Mixon looks like the more complete running back. And I feel Cincinnati's backups and Trayvon Williams and Chris Evans are slightly above what the Steelers' backups have right now. Although a lot of people know I am a big fan and supporter of what we're going to see out of Monteo Durant, because I believe he's going to come in and do something good. But right now, I feel Joe Mixon is better than what the Steelers put out at number 1, and that's Najee Harris. I think Harris has the potential to be the better back going into this year. But basing off, what have we seen? You have to go, Mixon had a better one. I mean, Najee hasn't shown that elusive step yet, which I think he needs to show. Yeah, he broke a lot of tackles, but his broken tackle or missed tackle percentage was super low. He was one of the leaders in broken tackles just because he carried the ball more than anyone else. And I just have a hard time seeing it and putting the Steelers above the Bengals right now. But then obviously you see I have the Steelers coming in 3rd again. Seems to be very consistent at the start. And that would put your Baltimore Ravens at last place. And that's kind of hard for me to say because when you look at the Ravens backs, I mean, J.K. Dobbins looks pretty good. Gus Edwards has looked pretty good at times. Justice Hill has looked good at times. But the biggest problem is I have a hard time banking on any running back who comes out of there. I mean, yes, clearly all these guys are going to put up numbers if they go there because that's just the way the system's set up. And just talent-wise, I feel they're all good, but they don't have a elite guy. At least no one has shown it yet. Maybe J.K. Dobbins does this year. But the bigger thing to me is all 3 of the main running backs for the Ravens are coming off injury. And it's just really hard for me to say a team coming off of injury that much is going to be a top-tier one. I do think they might lead the division in rushing yards, even out of the running back position, quite possibly. But that's purely due to the way the offense system is. I think if you look at the players, it's fair to put them right there, at least as of now. So let's go to the first set of pass catchers that we'll see out here, and the ones that purely focus on catching the ball for the most part. That's wide receivers, and here you have to give it to the Cincinnati Bengals, right? I mean, you're talking Jamar Chase, one of the top receivers in the games right now. T. Higgins, a deep threat extraordinaire. They also had a little guy like Mike Thomas they add Mike Thomas in there. And let's not forget, Tyler Boyd out of the slot, absolutely amazing. I mean, you're talking a 27-year-old experienced guy out there being your number one go-to slot guy. And you're just looking at a wide receiving core that has deep threat galore in T. Higgins with his big size. Unstoppable force out there last year in Jamar Chase. And adds just a weird element when you consider they had, two receivers with over 1,000 yards and Tyler Boyd at 800 or something like that last year. Just amazing ceiling for that team, and it only looks to get better as all those guys are young and can improve. Number 2 on the receivers, finally the Steelers moving up out of the 3 spot. I think when you look at the Pittsburgh Steelers, you have to say Deontay Johnson had a great year. You have to expect Claypool to step it up a little bit this year. And then you add into there George Pickens, Calvin Austin, maybe Anthony Miller regains some stuff and plays pretty well like he did. I believe he had a pretty good season in in Chicago when he was catching the ball from Trubisky. As a matter of fact, he did. Just looked up real quick. He had a 600. He averaged about 500 yards a season, 4 touchdowns when he was playing over there. So, I mean, maybe Anthony Miller comes and steps up big. He's a guy that I haven't personally talked about, but kind of forgot about him. But he made an amazing catch last year. But I like this receiving core. Deontay's low end. A high 2. Chase Claypool right now is a high 2. You add Pickens and that into it, and that's big because when you look at the next team we're going to put in there, it's the Browns. And you're talking with the Browns, they only have a high 2 in Amari Cooper. I mean, a lot of people love him more than I do, but it is what it is. Donovan Peoples-Jones is a good 3-4 receiver, but he has to step up to be a number 2. Their big thought was David Bell was going to come and step in and take over one of the spots left by like Jarvis Landry, but he's already out with an injury. So knowing that, you can't put him in that list. And the only reason that they get to be number 3 is because let me name some receivers from Baltimore, and you tell me if any of them scare you. Rashad Bateman, Devin Duvernay, James Proche, Jalen Moore, Tylan Wallace. You heard of any of these guys? No one has. I mean, maybe Bateman if you're a big college football and Minnesota fan, but no one's heard of this receiving core. The only one you might have heard of was Hollywood Brown. They let him go. And I think their number 2 receiver last year was Watkins, and he's not there anymore. So you have to look at that Ravens receiving core and just be like, ugh, that's painful. However, let's rotate straight into tight ends. All I have to say is Mark Andrews, and you'll understand why the Baltimore Ravens are number 1 on the tight end ratings, because Mark Andrews, absolute stud. There's nothing else to be said about that. We'll say that. We'll leave it at that. Number 2, I have to go with, I am a bigger fan of Hayden Hurst than I am David Njoku. So that's going to put the Cincinnati Bengals in there at number 2. Number 3 will become the Cleveland Browns because I think Njoku's a little more polished and a little more put out there than Pat Freiermuth, Zach Gentry, Kevin Radar, Connor Hayward. However, I'm going to say one thing right here. I think the Steelers have the biggest upside in the tight end group. Right now, I would rate them as the lowest because based off everything we've seen in the past, the biggest weaknesses lie in the Steelers' tight ends. Pat Freiermuth, a terrible blocking tight end, but decent at catching the ball. Zach Gentry, terrible at catching the ball, good at blocking, though. And you go to Baltimore, Mark Andrews, just all-around best tight end in there. Nick Boyle, great blocking tight end. You go to Cleveland, you have David Njoku, who's iffy, you'll say, catching the ball, but a really good blocker and athletic freak. Harrison Bryant also in there. Could be something. You go over there, Hayden Hurst, an experienced guy, a shown guy, first-round draft pick, showed why he was one. Drew Sample's been a good backup there. You also had Will Cox, who's had a couple catches here and there. So when you look around it, I think the Steelers just the youth and unprovenness of the tight end group, although I expect to see a big jump in the rankings, but if you had to rank them right now, that's where they have to be because you can't say the jump has happened yet. But I do believe the jump is ready to happen, especially if Freiermuth's becoming a bigger tight end option. And if you've watched the way tight ends have been used in Matt Canada offenses in his college stints, could be a really big gain there for the Pittsburgh Steelers. All right, let's go next into the offensive line, and we're just going to do it as a whole group because I think it's kind of weird to break apart group play by play because these guys all play together, and if the tackles are bad, maybe the guards look good, but are the guards really good if the tackles are just getting burned all day? Or is it just they're slightly better than the tackles? I mean, we've seen it before with Steeler offensive lines where the interior seemed good until the tackles got healthy and good. So let's go into it. Best offensive line to me is undoubtedly the Baltimore Ravens. I mean, you look at that group across. Let's start Ronnie Stanley, Pro Bowl guy. Tyree Phillips, backed up by Ben Powers. I don't know who's going to win that battle. Or Ben Cleveland also in there. A lot of good names to go out there at offensive guard, along with Kevin Zeitler, who probably will be the starter at right guard. You're talking a lot of big people mushers in there. Tyler Linderbaum. A lot of Steelers wanted him. Absolutely love. A lot of Steelers fans wanted him coming into the draft. Said he was going to be the future center, the greatest thing ever. So I'm going to give him the say here and say, sure, he's the best center. Let's say he's the best center in the division right now. And then they added Morgan Moses, start over there at right tackle. I think that offensive line, if it stays healthy, undoubtedly the best in the division. So then who do we go with number 2? Number 2 is it's hard for me here because all three of the offensive lines after this have glaring holes, but I think the one that's closest to being elite is the Cleveland Browns. Jedrick Wills Jr. is the probably second best left tackle in the division. I think he's better than Jonah Williams or Dan Moore Jr., whoever you want to say is starting for the other two teams. Then you have Joe Bitonio, good player there. Nick Harris, I'm not sold on the center there in Cleveland. Wyatt Teller has big potential. And then Jack Conklin's probably the best right tackle in the division. So that's why I have to feel the Browns get the rating here at number 2. And number 3, I think these other two teams made a really good job at improving their lines. Cincinnati with guys like Jackson Carman and Leo Collins. The Steelers had an interior depth, but I just feel the line in Cincinnati is better because I feel their tackles are better. That's Jonah Williams and Leo Collins starting at left and right tackle respectively. Then the inside's probably going to be Jackson Carman, Ted Karras, huge pickup from New England, underrated one. And Akeem Adenji's going to start there probably at right guard right now because they haven't signed anyone, but they'll probably fix that. And that's their biggest weakness if they don't. So I have to see the Bengals at 3rd. And that puts the Steelers, even though this offensive line I think is a lot better than it was last year, just from more reps from Chuck Okorafor and Dan Moore Jr., I think they improve. I'm not sure either one improves to where they're upper end starter quality, but maybe they improve to where they're lower end starter quality, which would be a huge upgrade off what they did last year. And then you're talking Kevin Dotson battling out with Kedrick Green is what we heard for an offensive guard spot. James Daniel is an absolute people mover brought over from Chicago. I love that. And Mason Cole, I like that bringing over from Minnesota, a solid starter at center. I feel the interior of this line is going to be solid this year, which is going to put a lot of pressure on those tackles to show they have improved. And we'll see what happens. Maybe John Leglue steps out and gets himself a starting job, or one of these other newly brought in guys who aren't really, that's what I'm looking for here. High end, I guess, for lack of a better term, but we'll see what happens out there. I mean, lots and lots of players to get lots of time to see if any of them can do it. I mean, I believe we brought in Trent Scott, who was a terrible starter at tackle last year for the Panthers, or formerly San Diego, Los Angeles Chargers. Maybe he can actually step it up and, because he has reps, push one of the two Steelers starters there for it. So if you want to go into this grouping, we went over it. Most first places, that's tied between your Cincinnati Bengals and your Baltimore Ravens. The only team without a first place is your Pittsburgh Steelers. Teams with the most last places, the Ravens and the Steelers. The Bengals don't show up in last place. So I said if you're going to rate overall offensive groups just based off of position group rankings, and I think it actually works out to be a pretty fair ranking here, you would get the Bengals rated as the number one offense in the AFC North. You would have the Baltimore Ravens ranked at number 2, Cleveland Browns at number 3, and the Pittsburgh Steelers coming in at number 4 based off of my positional group ones. So that's all I'm really going to talk about this week. Let me know if you have anything you want me to cover next week or going into the future weeks. Obviously, we'll do a defensive positional group rankings, and maybe we'll add special teams into that one as something special for you. Let me know what you think. Maybe we'll get Laskers and Gingy in here to bring theirs. Leave a comment with what your rankings are. Maybe we'll do Stonk Nation, Steeler Nation power rankings of the AFC North positional groups. But hey, let me know if you think I'm crazy. Let me know if there's some player that I didn't mention that you believe is the starter and should have changed someone's positional group. But let me know if you think someone I rated way too high, someone I rated way too low. Just feel free to leave any debatable subject you want there, because I'll be glad to debate against your closed topic, because you can't say anything back, so I can't lose, right? That's the best way to do it. Nah, I'm just kidding. If you want to come on the show, feel free to let me know. I'll debate it there. Always open for good content, which means there has to be good conduct on all sides, I guess. So, not losing it too much there. But those are my positional group ratings. Guess it's time to go to the shout-outs. And who should we shout out this week? You know what? A lot of people don't like that Ben Roethlisberger's out there talking, but I find it quite interesting to know that the Steelers really didn't seem to want him back, which you could tell by a pay cut, but Art Rooney really pushed for him to come back. For Ben to call out that this pass to Santonio Holmes should be viewed a lot better than it is in terms of Super Bowl moments, I agree with him. So, I'm going to give my shout out to Ben Roethlisberger, because he's going out there and he's saying it how he feels, and I love it, because if they're going to put a mic in your face, don't be afraid to tell them how you really feel. I love to see it, as long as you keep it appropriate, obviously. So my shout out this week has to go to Ben Roethlisberger. With that, I gotta let you know I am the Viking Donkey. That's Viking_Donkey on Twitch and Twitter. Your daily dose of Donkey with Ginger is a YouTube channel. Leave us a like, leave us a comment, leave us a follow. Let us know what you think. Let us know what you want to see. Let us know anything that's on your mind. Hey, it's training camp time. Donk Nation, Steeler Nation. You better have them, and you better wave them if you got them. Here we go.